Hillary Clinton's campaign is finding itself in some unfamiliar territory. Second place. A new poll by Franklin Pierce University and the Boston Herald has Senator Bernie Sanders ahead of Hillary Clinton by 7 points among likely Democratic primary voters in New Hampshire. More than half of Granite State voters say they view Sanders very favorably, while only 38% feel the same about Clinton. The enthusiasm behind the Sanders campaign is starting to get more media attention. He's also starting to get attention from the Republican field. Donald Trump criticized Sanders' reaction to Black Lives Matter, protesters taking the stage during the senator's campaign event in Seattle.
I would never give up my microphone. I thought that was disgusting. That showed such weakness. The way he was taken away by 2 young women. The microphone, they just took the whole place over. That was a disgrace. The way they took, I felt badly for him. But it showed that he's weak.
I'm joined now by E.J. Dionne, MSNBC contributor and columnist for The Washington Post and professor at Georgetown, Robert Costa, national political reporter for The Washington Post, and Nick Gillespie, editor-in-chief at Reason.com and Reason TV and co-author of the book, The Declaration of Independence, How Libertarian Politics Can Fix What's Wrong with America. With that title, Nick Gillespie, why is...
I think we're out of time.
Yeah, I think we're done. Segment's over. Why is Trump focusing on Sanders so much right now?
Oh, well, I think it's fascinating. And, you know, you cut it off before he finished his quote, which was that, you know, he likes Sanders, and Sanders and he are the only 2 people who are really drawing crowds. I think it's very important to look at Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump as 2 sides of the same coin. And they're running kind of demagogic populist campaigns. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, more in a descriptive way. They are channeling the anger and the frustration and the sense of many people in the country that the world has somehow gotten the better of America and of them as individuals. These are guys who are promising very soundbite heavy, in many ways very stupid, but also very attractive and simplistic solutions to a world that seems to be beyond anybody's control right now.
All right, Robert, I'll leave it to you to weigh in on whether demagoguery is ever a neutral term. The crowds at Bernie Sanders rallies look young. Is he getting the Obama voters, Mr. Sanders?
Many Democratic voters in the millennial generation, when they look at what kind of nominee they want in the post-Obama era, many of them, when you're on the campaign trail, they want to see someone who moves the party to the left. And with Hillary Clinton, they see someone they respect, they admire. She's still a powerful force in New Hampshire and elsewhere. But Sanders captures the soul of what they want the Democratic Party to be.
Right. E.J., do young voters care about Hillary Clinton, and will the enthusiasm gap hurt her, given the kind of enthusiasm being generated by Bernie Sanders among the millennials?
Well, when you look at Bernie Sanders, in some ways, I think it's the delayed political reaction of Occupy Wall Street. If you go back to Occupy, they were very anti-political, very anti-electoral politics. And yet, there were a lot of people out there who sympathized with them, who believed in the electoral route, who believed that that was one way to get power or influence policy. And the fact is that since the crash, partly because Obama was in power when most of the effects of the crash hit, you really didn't see the kind of reaction toward the left that you saw, say, after the Great Depression. And so I think this is a delayed reaction, and that Bernie himself is a very attractive figure because he's got nothing to lose. He didn't even expect to be in the position he is in right now. And so I think the Clinton campaign is worried about her, particularly in Iowa and New Hampshire, where the demographics are very good for a Bernie Sanders campaign.
Sure. If I can say, it's also another way that Trump and Sanders are similar that E.J. touches on. Neither of them are actually representative of the parties whose domination they're running for. Sanders is an independent socialist. He, you know, he caucuses with the Democrats. Trump is not a Republican by anybody's measure, although he's running as a Republican. But again, Sanders, like the things that really get people up and at it at his things, it's the Chinese are taking jobs away, Wall Street financiers. I mean, he sounds like Jason Thompson in The Sound and the Fury half the time, that it's these people in Wall Street are outsourcing jobs. Mexicans, he's anti-immigrant. He's openly anti-immigrant in a way that calls to mind Donald Trump. This is the populism, and this is the demagoguery, and I don't necessarily mean that in a negative light. I don't agree with it, right. But it's the politics of resentment and anger. And I think what Trump and Sanders are doing is they're setting a table. Nobody thinks they're going to win. They're setting the table for a later discussion among the more serious, more credible candidates about whether or not they can come up with a positive vision that doesn't simply rely on saying we've got to keep immigrants out, we've got to keep Chinese goods out, and we just have to raise everybody's wages by fiat. That's the real challenge of the 2016 campaign.
All right.
Could I just say, just for the record, what Bernie has said about Mexicans has nothing to do with what Donald Trump has.
He is against immigration. He is against immigration, and he is flat out against it because it undercuts his support with unions. There's no question about
borders,
it.
Anyway,
he is against increasing immigration to the United States. Go find where he talks about how we should be increasing immigration.
But are you simply
at the
suggesting?
Same time, he's in favor of crony capitalism if it's the Export-Import Bank because those corporations pay union wages.
Let me get Robert in here. So, Robert, is the mainstream media finally taking Bernie seriously, as our two guests are here today?
Well, we look at everyone in the press, regardless of what outlet you work for, you see the crowd Sanders is drawing, and this is someone who's creating a real movement across this country. And it's different in the way that Howard Dean was in 2004, anti-war. This is someone who, as EJ said, and as Nick said, is correct. They're connecting with the populist anger in both sides of the party. They're looking at what happened with Occupy Wall Street and the crash, and they're just connecting all of these dots together to make a movement that's grassroots and powerful.
All right, E.J. Dionne, Robert Costa, and Nick Gillespie, thank you so much for your time.
Good to be with you.
Coming up, Tom Brady and the NFL square off in federal court today over Deflategate, but the judge in the case is still undecided. We'll tell you why next.